So, like, honestly, who was surprised that I royally fucked up and did not film a monthly wrap up for October? Yeah, I didn't think so. So, this is gonna be my 2-in-1 October and November wrap up because I am garbage at being consistent when life throws me curveballs like a dog with intense separation anxiety and like an attempt at a social life and crazy things at work. And I'm gonna stop making excuses. Let's talk about what I read in October. In October, I read 6 books. I started with Furyborn by Claire Legrand, and I listened to the audio of this book, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it supremely more than the last Claire Legrand book I read, which was Winterspell, which I think I gave like a 3.5 out of 5 stars. This one was definitely a 4. I thought the characters were great. The plot was really slow and like really predictable in places, but the characters were so interesting, and especially the like protagonist villain relationships, which I will admit I thought was pretty well done in Winterspell, but I really liked in this book. So I'm actually quite looking forward to the second book and seeing where we go with this. I listened to Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. Obviously, this was made into a film called Love, Simon. The movie is fantastic. I saw the movie before I read the book, um, just because I was on the wait list for the audio at the library, and I think that both are phenomenal. And it's a really charming story. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It was a really good, easy breezy time. I listened to Harry Potter: A History of Magic by Ben Davies, as narrated by Natalie Dormer. Perfection. I heard there was apparently controversy when this book came out. People were really annoyed it wasn't the like textbook A History of Magic, and I was like, yeah, but we knew from the start it wasn't going to be. Like they said, it was all about the inspirations behind Harry Potter and like actual historical stuff. Like this was the name of the exhibit at the British Library. Why are people surprised? Do people like not actually read the jacket copy? Like people, this shouldn't have been news. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was interesting. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I read We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. Now, as we remember, I read before The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson, which I absolutely loved, and it was a very good miniseries on Netflix, although I didn't love the final episode. Regardless, We Have Always Lived in the Castle was another book of hers that I'd heard was highly recommended, was fantastic, and it was. It was absolutely fantastic. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. I thought, really everything about it was phenomenal. And Shirley Jackson was such a good writer. Like, fucking hell, she was such a good writer. I read The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. Yes, a mouthful of a title by Mary Ann Schaefer. This is another case where I saw the movie before I read the book. And again, it was because I was just on the wait list at the library. I actually liked the movie a little more than I liked the book. The book was very charming. It was very pleasant. I really liked it. I gave it like a 3.75 out of 5 stars, but I liked the movie more because there's a whole side character in the book that really was just sort of cut out of the film, and I think it's actually to the betterment of the story. But very cute, very lovely, good stuff. And finally, the last book that I read in October was called My Plain Jane, and it's by 3 different authors, and I can't remember them all off the top of my head. This is part of a kind of companion series called The Lady Janies, where these authors are essentially taking Janes either from history or literature and putting new twists on their stories. So My Plain Jane is a twist upon Jane Eyre. Now, I am not a Jane Eyre super fan. It's not my favorite classic of all time, but I really do love Jane Eyre. I've read it multiple times. I've seen so many various adaptations of it. I was curious about this because what I essentially had been heard, it was Jane Eyre, but like there are ghosts, and ghosts are real, and ghosts are going to play a part of it. And I thought, this is perfect. Jane Eyre has this sort of early gothic feel to it. There's mentions of pre-Stokerian vampires. Ghosts are actually mentioned. Like, so ghosts and spirits, this is like such a perfect thing to bring to the world of Jane Eyre. And this book was inconsistent but fun. I gave it kind of around 3.5 out of 5 stars. There were a lot of things I enjoyed about it. I thought the actual character of Charlotte Bronte and the character Alexander Blackwood were quite a delight. There were twists on the Jane Eyre story that I quite liked, even if they were predictable, but in general, Jane Eyre and the Jane Eyre story kind of played beat for beat, and it wasn't as exciting as it should have been. It was just sort of like, nothing's really happening. Like, There's nothing I haven't read before. It's not really bringing anything new. And there were a couple moments of like the author's clearly trying to be clever and like wink wink nudge nudge and funny and slide in some actually fairly modern references, and it really jarred me out of the story, and they did not always work. So again, inconsistent but fun. So let's talk about November. The first book I read in November was Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas, and guys, I'm free. I'm fucking free. I'm free of the steaming pile of garbage that Throne of Glass has become, and honestly, this book was fucking horrendous. I gave it 1 out of 5 stars, and it's the lowest I have rated any book in Throne of Glass. Before then, I've at least been kind and given them 2. No, this got 1 because it was 900 something pages and did not need to be, and that just pissed me off so much. And I was like, fuck it, I can't even give it 2. And it was predictable. There were no consequences to any actions. There's a cameo from ACOTAR that did not need to be in there. Like, I'm not gonna start ranting. Excuse my hiccups. I'm getting the hiccups. I'm so worked up. We started with that and I hated it. But I'm free and I never have to think about it again. I'm so happy about that. I read Lethal White. This is the 4th book in the Cormoran Strike series by Robert Galbraith, which is the pseudonym of J.K. Rowling. I rated this book 5 out of 5 stars. I have loved the Cormoran Strike series from the beginning. I thought this was a really fantastic installment, especially, picking up from the cliffhanger of the 3rd book, which was kind of rude. What I liked most about this story was it spent more time on the characters than the mystery. I mean, the mystery was very character driven as well, and we were doing more of kind of the relationships between all the players than we were just sort of following them solving a murder. And I found that so enjoyable, and J.K. Rowling just really knows how to write characters and their interactions, and just, it was such a good story. I was such a fan. I read And the Ocean Was Our Sky by Patrick Ness. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. It's a very interesting novel. It is sort of like a twist on Moby Dick, but like it's the way it plays with metaphor and reality is, to me, classic Patrick Ness and just fascinating. It's not an easy read, kind of in the same way for a lot of people Moby Dick isn't an easy read, but it was worth it, I think, to me, especially as somebody who actually really quite likes the book Moby Dick. I know I'm in the minority. It is a love it or hate it book, and I kind of liked it. But I was just really taken with this book and the musicality of the writing. I listened to I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith. This is a book that I'd heard mentioned by various authors as being one that was like really formative to their childhood and they really liked. And honestly, I found this book charming. It was very entertaining. So I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was not my favorite thing that I read, but it was very surprisingly like easy breezy, just charming. It's the only word I have for it. And finally, the last book that I read in November, the one about which I'm honestly the most excited, and I want to do a series review for this whole series, so I'm going to have to hold my tongue about a lot of things, is Jack Frost, The End Becomes the Beginning by William Joyce. This is the final book in the Guardians of Childhood series, and I have literally waited years for this book. Years. I think we're going on something like 4 years I waited for this book. And it was honestly super worth it. I'm pretty certain it's the largest of the Guardians books, and it was just, it hit me right in the feels. All the feels. This is a middle grade series, but it's so good. Fight me. I don't care if I'm an adult. I love these stories. I think they are so clever. They are so creative. They have tons of emotions. William Joyce's writing style and his art style is things that I love, and I literally loved since I was a kid. It's just, I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. It was a phenomenal conclusion to this series, and I'm really excited that I have a godson who's, he's not even 1 yet, but this is a series I will want to introduce to him and say, these are really fun stories about characters we kind of know already. Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, the Sandman, Mother Goose, Pitch the Nightmare King, the Man in the Moon, Jack Frost, Nightlight. It's just such a good story. And I can't talk too much about it because I want to do a series review for this whole thing. But this was probably my favorite book that I've read within the past 2 months. So yeah, I'm super garbage at being consistent. So I hit you with a twofer.
Thanks for watching me ramble today. If you'd like to see more from me, go ahead and click that button with my face on it. It'll take you to my channel where I ramble about a whole lot of different things. Got some thoughts of your own? Go ahead and leave them down in the comments. And make sure that if you want to see more ramblings from me, you click that little subscribe button. That's it for me today, you guys, so until next time, cheers.